Welcome to RHI's Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today, we are meeting with Rosa Escareño, Commissioner, Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I'm here to talk with Rosa in response to our previous interview that we held in Seattle. So Rosa is with the Office of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, and she's a commissioner there. So she has a big role and oversees multiple aspects of the way the city of Chicago operates and runs. And also, she's been quite an innovator in policy development and policy regulation, really nurturing and encouraging entrepreneurs and people who have ideas that don't fit into the traditional regulatory scheme and system, and giving them an opportunity to experiment. And if they succeed, going backwards and trying to make the regulatory system match these innovators and these new ideas. So Rosa, you bring quite an interesting perspective and background to this discussion. And obviously Chicago is a destination for nightlife, is a very vibrant city for tourism and conventions, and really depends upon an active nighttime economy to support all of these other industries. So this must be a challenging time, not only for the businesses and the community, but for you and your position and how you're kind of corralling all the resources necessary to make things happen. So you want to kind of just share a little bit about what you've been discovering or learning over these past 7 months since we were in Seattle, and then we could talk a little bit more about what could be in Chicago.
Sure, Jim, thank you so much. It's an unimaginable situation that we find ourselves in. And who would have thought that literally when we were in Seattle, I recall coming back to Chicago following, that conference, literally less than a month, we were faced with a stay-at-home order and closing down our restaurants and bars. Actually, in Chicago, we first closed our restaurants and bars and then followed it with a stay-at-home order. I think it's been an extremely humbling situation and time that we're dealing with in Chicago. As you indicated, my department, working under the mayor's leadership, Mayor Lori Lightfoot here at the city of Chicago, we actually have been at the forefront of many of the changes and that have had to take place as a result of the many changes. So just to give you a quick summary, there have been 18 changes in the last 18 months to the guidelines issued to our business community. And we, and primarily my office, has taken about 19 different actions in response to those same changes. We have had over 150 webinars educating our businesses on all the changes that have happened. We have had, a dramatic transformation of how we run our agency. Within less than a week, we had, after the stay-at-home order was announced and our workers could not be in the office, we had to, within a week, actually get everybody prepped up and ready to work. And in literally a week's time, we were already all set up with our licensing and in regulatory scheme being provided by our workers. So we have not really missed a beat. Here in Chicago, we have continued to stay operational. But the impact to our business community with all these different changes that have happened have been dramatic, specifically to our hospitality industry, just like you indicated, Jim. It's interesting because just about a month and a half ago, Condé Nast, the travel publication, again rated Chicago the #1 big city to travel because of our hospitality. So we have a huge value. The hospitality community brings a huge value to our travelers and to our local residents. It is one of the biggest employers of our residents. And so seeing what they're going through right now is extremely saddening. But we have been working hand in hand with them. The I think the really important thing for us in government is that we had to be nimble from the start. We had to be prepared to change and move. We had to take this, because I'm a regulator, so we license and then we also regulate the licensing framework, but we are also the labor arm of the city and we are also the consumer protection arm of the city. So everything is kind of embodied in our office. One of the important things that I would say that we immediately not only continued to make sure that we were supporting the businesses with all the messaging, we wanted to make sure that they got the message directly from us, knew exactly what needed to be done. And then on the licensing end, we wanted to make sure that they understood that we were here and that they were not going to be penalized. And on the enforcement side, we took our enforcement team, and rather than be out there ticketing, they all become public awareness, right? So then we took all the regulations and our enforcement team became the team that actually now was informing businesses of what they needed to do. Now, over the last 8 months, we've had to transition and change and prioritize where we were placing our resources. But our enforcement team has been extremely critical to ensuring compliance of the stay-at-home order and all of the public safety guidelines that have come out. All those 18 changes, it's been a full team, regulatory and licensing, that has been helping in ensuring that we're keeping our businesses apprised of all the changes. We have had great compliance from our business community, in many cases, in many situations to their detriment, right? Our large venues have essentially not been able to open because we've had a capacity of max of 50 when they've actually been able to open. And so it's been a really unique situation in our time. But what I can tell you about the structure of our agency, what's important, and I think for other local municipalities or people in the roles that I hold in government, is that I think it's essential that you have built trust, with your business community, with your partners. We're talking about not just the businesses, the legislators, but also the consumer base. Because when then government gives instruction, then you want to make sure everybody trusts that what you are providing is the right guidance. Unfortunately, what's happened nationally is that because we've had no real direction at the federal level, it has been the local governments that have had to stand up all these guidelines and regulations. So trust has been extremely important. And I think we worked very hard over the last few years to build that. But then you have to know how to prioritize your resources and be quick to change and to be nimble, because these 18 different directives have forced us to constantly change. But we have to be cognizant of the reality that our businesses are facing, and we have to be prepared to immediately stand up programs that are going to be supportive.
These are all really important lessons that you've learned. And obviously, you've demonstrated how this interagency collaborative that you've established over all of these years really has helped to build, like you said, the trust among the businesses. And that and that shift that you have from your enforcement team to become more about compliance, or almost like guardians rather than protectors, that you're there to advance kind of the social good rather than catch people doing something wrong. And so these are all philosophies that I've always found unique and special about the agency or the department that you work with. Now, moving forward, you've seen a lot of changes in terms of alcohol regulation and policy, and people being able to have takeout alcohol, or pressure to have more flexibility with alcohol licensing, more outdoor seating, more rooftop seating, ways in which you can keep people outdoors more. And so that was all the lessons through the spring and summer. Now, naturally, I think come April, when people kind of are getting through this winter season, which is promising to be quite dramatic, and also this notion of vaccinations starting to happen, April and May, in many cities, there'll be this, what I call social surge. this increased demand for places for people to go out and meet and socialize. And obviously, all those businesses that have made it through, struggling with debt, struggling with financial challenges, that they may start to try to reopen and re-engage the public. But you'll also have a lot of vacancies, a lot of businesses that haven't been able to survive. Now, how do you see your agency in the future helping to overcome some of these external forces, but at the same time evaluate maybe and reimagine ways in which social areas in the city would be redefined, both with an infrastructure update, with more outdoor seating and more outdoor capacity, or just ways in which restaurants might move more into a takeout delivery system than a dining system. How do you see what could be in the future in terms of how people socialize and how venues really adapt to this new consumer market? Will we have more day life than nightlife? Is there going to be a shift in that direction?
Well, Jim, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the many things that you've mentioned are the things that we've actually already done in the city. So everything, we've expanded the outdoor dining. We have an expanded outdoor dining program where over 400 restaurants and bars have participated. So the first goal, which I'm working on right now, is to extend all the benefits that we provided our restaurants and our hospitality industry into the future. That includes continuing to expand those outdoor dining opportunities. We've reduced the price by 75% for our outdoor cafes, for example. We have deferred licensing through December. Now we're going to kick it into 2021. The most important thing for me is to restart that marketplace and make sure that our businesses are not thinking about some of that cost that comes with starting that business or restarting. So we have to make sure that they feel supported at the beginning. And yes, Jim, I think that because of the impact on our larger venues and our nightlife, and I think in coming next year, yeah, there's going to be a vaccine, but when that actually makes it to the larger population is yet to be seen. So we're prepping to support the businesses as much as we can the very first 6 months. And then our hope is to continue to deregulate. That's another assignment that I have my team working on right now. Deregulation. Where are things old that we just need to clean up? How do we make it easier for businesses to continue to come in and be in compliance? We have done all the above that you've mentioned. Yes, we have policies now to allow the cocktails to go. For example, we are allowing delivery. We just recently, like other cities, also established a cap on, it just went to council yesterday, a cap on delivery fees. And so we need to continue to figure out how we get out of the way of business. How do we continue to think about areas of stress for our business community? And we have to be prepared. But it goes back to that trust, Jim, because I have to go back to the legislators and change the law. Or I have to at least say, at least during COVID or during 2021, I have to take all these different changes and make sure that they buy into it. So building that trust is really important. But what could be is, I think, an expansion of our, what happens at night could also happen in the day very easily. How do we allow music to be outside so when it's not disruptive? And those are the issues that we have to figure out, right? Because music and the outdoors, it's usually a no-no. People don't like the disruption. But we have to make sure that our residents know the importance of bringing business back, because that is what employs our residents. And so I think we need to make sure that any policies that we put in going forward brings value to the entire city, and that nightlife that we so depend on for tax dollars, for entertainment, for tourism, that how do we show that we can do it safely, that we can allow businesses to come into the fold easily, but that we still have that regulatory arm so that when things get out of control, that people know we're on top of it. We need to make sure that we're embracing new concepts, especially as everything is now virtual. How do we get people out visiting and feeling safe about being at an establishment that can provide music and a great meal in the middle of the day, right? And how do we then start to think about the innovation of bringing the larger venues back. You know,
Mm,
what is it going to take now? I mean, I see a concert that I went to a year ago, and I'm like, when are we going to be back there? Right. And so we need to
mhm.
start thinking about how do we work with our venue operators to make sure that we make the public feel good about being in those spaces.
Yeah,
Everybody has to feel safe.
so really just trying to reimagine, and then also the changes, the transformative changes that are necessary in the systems. And obviously, you're quite progressive in your thinking, and the whole department that you have is built upon this collective input that comes from multiple sectors. And many cities don't have that opportunity to, have your police and your fire and your code enforcement all sitting together and building trust amongst themselves and working together. So that's one advantage that you have.
Right.
So this has been quite informative. I really like your idea of kind of deregulating, but with compliance, and making places safer. I think that's a nice way to frame this. So in conclusion, if you could say in a short a snapshot, how do you see the evolution of your department, particularly your entertainment venue team, which is one of the unique aspects that Chicago has that many cities don't? How would you see that in the future? How would you see that as continuing or being reformed?
You know, I think that education and training is essential to the future cities. I think that you have to have a government that knows how to be nimble and be transformative. And that when the time changes, that we have to be prepared to change. There is no time for government and businesses to be stuck. You have to be ready to go because we cannot get in the way of businesses progressing and pushing forward. That's what makes our city so vibrant. And so I think we have to be nimble, we have to be transformative, and we have to be willing to take input and change, because sometimes we're actually what's holding cities from moving forward. And I'm always open to that.
Okay, well, Rosa, this has been a wonderful and insightful interview. And I think you bring a lot of new dimension to how cities have to move forward. And we're looking forward to having you part of a discussion in March, where we'll really tap your brain once again. But thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person, and this is really an honor that you spent it with us. So I'm
Thank
gonna
you, Jim.